My wife, Audrey, invited me to her company party one evening. It was a very big deal for her, so I wanted to make sure I was there to support her. Before we even stepped out of the car and went inside the brightly lit building, she gave me a very gentle warning. She told me that her coworkers could be very loud sometimes and that they really like to compete with each other to see who was the best or the most successful person in the room. I just smiled at her and laughed a little bit. I told her that she shouldn't worry at all, because I could handle a situation like that very easily. I felt very confident and happy to be there by her side. The evening started out normally enough for a business event. We were walking around the room, chatting with different people and meeting her team. Everything was fine until a man named Grant, who was one of her coworkers, walked over to us. He had a very smug smile on his face that made me feel a bit uneasy right away. He was wearing an expensive suit and stood in a way that showed he thought he was better than everyone else. He looked me up and down like he was checking the price tag on a piece of old furniture to see if it was worth keeping. He finally spoke and asked, "So, you're Audrey's husband?" I didn't want to be rude, so I just gave him a simple, polite nod. He laughed in a way that wasn't very friendly at all. He said, "I really thought she would marry someone who looked much more impressive than you." A few people standing nearby heard him and started to chuckle. Audrey looked very uncomfortable and sad, but she didn't say a word to stop him. Grant leaned in even closer to me and added something even meaner. He told me not to worry too much, because some of the men at the office made sure to take very good care of her when I was not around. I stayed very still. I looked at him calmly and asked, "Are you finished yet?" I wanted to give him a chance to walk away and be a better person. But Grant was not finished at all. He started to brag loudly about his big position at the company and how he was the most important person for Audrey's career and her success. He told me that she spent much more time with him at work than she ever spent with me at home. I could see Audrey's face getting very tight and stressed. I quietly asked her if she wanted to leave the party right then. She shook her head and said she wanted to stay. Grant saw my silence and thought it meant I was weak or scared of him. He reached out and put his hand on my shoulder, saying, "You should be careful. People like you do not last very long around here." I just smiled and gently moved his hand away from me. I told him he was making many guesses about someone he didn't even know. Grant laughed and asked what I did for a living. I told him my own consulting firm, helping other people with their businesses so they could grow. He smirked and said that sounded very vague and unimportant. I didn't feel the need to explain anything else to him. Audrey knew exactly what my company did, but Grant didn't have a clue. He kept boasting about a big contract his team had won. I told him good job. Then he said, "Maybe your wife should work for me. I would know how to appreciate her better than you do." Finally, Audrey told him to stop. Grant just put his hands up and acted like he was only joking around. I looked at him and said, "The problem with jokes is that people usually show what they really think while they are making them." A few minutes later, the big boss of the company walked over to us. The second he saw me, his whole face changed. "Mr. Harrison," he said warmly, shaking my hand with kindness. Suddenly, Grant went very quiet. The boss explained to everyone that my firm had been talking with their company for months to start a major partnership. Grant just stared at me. He asked if I was really the owner. I nodded. His face went very pale. I had never mentioned my company because I didn't go to my wife's party to talk about business or money. I certainly didn't expect to meet someone who would try to look big by being mean to my wife. Grant tried to say sorry right away. I told him that his behavior wasn't about our business deal. It was about basic human respect. I didn't care who he worked for. He had tried to humiliate a friend's husband on purpose, and he had crossed a line. The boss looked very embarrassed and asked Grant to step away from the party. Grant tried to say he was just joking again. His boss told him, "You had many chances to stop, but you didn't." Later that night, Audrey and I sat outside under the stars. She apologized for not stopping Grant sooner. I said I knew why she was quiet. She explained there was no romance between them. She only put up with him to avoid any scene. I told her that avoiding a small fight can lead to bigger problems. She agreed. The next morning, Audrey said Grant had been given a formal warning. The company had rules about behavior, and the incident was documented. I didn't want special favors. She said her boss completely agreed. Grant would face the consequences because of how he acted. That was important. I didn't want to ruin his life. I just wanted people to know that being mean isn't okay. A week later, Grant asked to meet with me. He said sorry and admitted he was just trying to look tough. I told him he shouldn't need to know my job title to be kind. Everyone deserves respect. Audrey got a promotion later on her own merit. Grant stayed at the job after taking classes. I learned that staying calm is the strongest thing you can do. It lets the other person show everyone who they are. Months later, Audrey joked about that party and asked if I enjoyed seeing Grant lose his pride. I laughed and told her that wasn't the best part. The satisfying part was realizing I didn't have to prove anything. Grant spent all night trying to be important, but his own words hurt him most. Audrey squeezed my hand. "You know what I learned?" she asked. "Never bring you to another party." I laughed, deal. Then she added, "Actually, I think I'll keep bringing you. Apparently, you're good luck for me and everyone." It's funny how being kind can be the most powerful way to handle a bully. You don't need to shout to show who you are, and you don't need to be mean to be important. Kindness is a gift we should give to everyone we meet, no matter what.